Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome to the Wealthy Me podcast. And this morning we're talking about imposter syndrome. If you have ever found yourself in a room, in a situation, sat at a table where you feel like you don't belong, feel like you're not good enough, you start feeling anxious, start wondering how you got here, this video is for you because this morning we're going to talk about how to leverage that and how to use it to actually access your next level of wealth. So come on in. Hang on, I'm going to jump over here in the comments, make sure I can see who's here already. Yay! Okay, awesome. So let's dive in. This morning, I want to start with just helping the tone and the foundation of this conversation by reframing what we mean, what we allow our brains to think when we think of imposter syndrome. One of the things that I can tell you is the number one lesson I've learned personally in this area in my own life is the faster I normalize that feeling of belonging when I'm in those spaces where I'm feeling that imposter syndrome, the faster I normalize, I belong here, the faster I 10x my income and access the next level of wealth for me. And I just want to have this conversation because we've given imposter syndrome a bad rap. We've actually used it to disempower ourselves versus truly understanding what it means, how to reframe it, and how to use it to make yourself wealthy, right? So, okay, here we go. Interestingly, I had a conversation with my husband this weekend and I was curious, like, do guys go through this too? And how do they respond? And my husband was like, looking back at my career, I can see every time I got a promotion, at first I felt like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I don't belong here. I don't belong at this level. And so he said he immediately used it as fuel. And he went into, I do belong here. I'm going to show them. I'm going to be faster, smarter, better, right? And so he went into like overdrive to externally show that he belonged there, but also to himself, like, absolutely, I do belong here. On the contrary, what I notice with myself and many of the women that I serve, and what I'm talking about brilliant women, is that we actually shrink. We do the complete opposite. We get that imposter syndrome sensation and we use it to hide our brilliance, right? Where guys actually use it as fuel. So I want to talk about how we can reframe this because this is a massive opportunity for you to recognize when you have that feeling of not belonging, what does it really mean? So the first thing is imposter syndrome will make you feel like you don't belong. I don't belong in this room. The truth is, this is more than do I belong. I want you to think when you have that feeling, wait a second, I've been placed here. I more than belong. Those rooms are meant for you to use as a stepping stool. You have been placed in that place that you feel awkward, uncomfortable, not good enough, not smart enough, not like everybody else. And you allow your brain to think, I don't belong, I should shrink, I should hide, I should leave. Trust me, I'm speaking from experience. Instead, I want you to think, wait a minute, what did the universe reorganize, like my entire life, reorganize so I could be in this room? Actually, the universe placed me here. It's that thing that happens when you have to say, I'm meant to be here. Let that become your confidence. I want to encourage you to start, we talk a lot about evidence in my world. I want you to start to think when you're in that room, when you're in that place where you feel awkward, uncomfortable, like shrinking, actually reframe it in your brain to think, wait a minute, this is evidence. This is my greatest signal that the universe is trying to communicate with me. I'm ready for my next level. Time for my next level. Can you all type that? It is time for my next level. This is evidence that it is time for my next level, and I have been placed here. This is about belonging, right? It's about you have been placed in this circumstance to use it as a stepping stool for your next level. So I decided I wanted to talk about this because a few weeks ago, we were meeting as goddesses. This is the women that I work with at the highest level. And one of the goddesses was talking about an experience that she had had recently that included $39 million. And there was another goddess new to this work, new on her business journey in a completely different situation, right? So she has a job and she is really looking now to go pursue her passion and generate income in addition to her job. So she's in a totally different place. And she messaged me afterwards and she said, wait a second, I'm sitting in this room with women who are talking about millions and multi-millions and multi six figures. Do I really belong? And I was so grateful. She felt safe to tell me how she was feeling because I know that feeling. I've been there before. And I said to her, this is your greatest evidence that the universe, God, source, knows your desires, knows the big plans that are in store for you, and is giving you an opportunity to let your brain know you are on your way. This is your greatest evidence. One of the stories I love is Steve Harvey. And he says, as a multimillionaire, like this is, at the height of his wealth. And he made a statement. He said, when I get in a room, I want to be the brokest person in the room. Right? This is multi-millionaire status. And he says, I don't want to be the richest guy in the room. With all my multi-millions, my mind blown that this is my life, I want to be in the rooms where I'm the brokest person. That is a wealth code. Why? Because in those rooms, you learn. In those rooms, you grow. In those rooms, you expand. You start hearing how they're making their millions, right? So I want to give you a tip. When you find yourself in a room where you're having that imposter syndrome, sat at a table in an experience, whatever it might be, and you start thinking, I don't belong. Number one, think of it as this is evidence and stay in the room. Do not leave, do not shrink, do not hide, stay in the room. And here's what I'm going to encourage you to do. Ask the people in the room. Make sure you say, I will not leave until I ask one question. I'm going to go to the person that I'm feeling, that I'm most inspired by, that I'm most motivated by their story, whatever it is, and go ask a mindset question. Everybody wants to know, how'd you make your money? How'd you make your millions? Like whatever, their way might not be your way. But what I can assure you is there's a mindset code that they use to get to that level. That's one of my little hacks is when I'm in those rooms, I don't care how you made your money. God bless you. I'm going to make mine probably totally different. But what I know we have in common is we have a mind that creates wealth. So tell me your hack. Tell me your code. What did you do? What was the thing that switched for you in your thinking? Okay. And I promise you, you've been placed in that room to it's kind of like, think of the journey to wealth as you're on this journey and you're getting little breadcrumbs, you're getting little evidence, there's a little flashlight showing you the next step on your journey. When you're in those rooms, use it as leverage to get to your next step. Do not shrink, do not hide. Can you type, every one of you watching, type, stay in the room. Stay in the room, ask a mindset question. Everybody watching, wherever you are, live, replay, Instagram, YouTube, stay in the room and ask a mindset question. You not only belong, you were placed in that room for a reason. Okay? So number two, this is another point I want to make. Looking back, as I was getting ready for this, I was like, you know what? I can look back at the rooms that I've been in and I realize that rooms change revenue. Exposure changes your identity, and your identity expands your income ceiling. I remember going out to Utah several years ago as part of a mastermind, and I sat in the room, and before it was done, I said to myself, how in the world how did I even get here? This is a room full of multi-millionaire, I would say probably, gosh, if I counted on my hands, there were probably 5 women in this room, and I was the only Black woman, and there was one other Black man. Okay. And everybody in the room was 10, 100 times wealthier than me. And so I'm sitting there like, first of all, this little Black girl from Jamaica, how did I even end up in this room? And starting to feel that imposter syndrome. And I remember I just like shut that crap down. I was like, here, take a snack, sit in the corner, because we're about to expand. And the conversations that I had, that was a breakthrough moment for me in accessing different levels in my own business, because just by being in the room, my identity shifted. They looked at me not like, oh, you have less money, but you belong. Obviously you did something right. You're in this room, right? Nobody asked me what's your level of income. They actually assumed I was making the same level of income that they did. But here's the bigger thing. Wealthy people, we have this notion that, all of our stuff about they're greedy, they're selfish, they're all this stuff. Wealthy people actually love sharing their journey. They love if you ask articulate questions that will help you on your journey. They love it. One of the guys in the room was doing billions of dollars in e-commerce transactions. Billions. I have a little Shopify store that sells journals. If we make $100 on there a month, it's like, whoa, what did we do? And I just said to him, hey, would you mind taking a look at my store and telling me what your thoughts are? He's like, absolutely. Send me your login. Literally, the guy messaged me midnight with his like 2 pages of his thoughts. Okay. I wasn't paying him. It was just, I asked for help. I asked for support. And I realized in that moment, wow, I literally have the code for free if I want to go the e-commerce route in my business. So exposure changes identity, and identity expands your income ceiling. Second thing imposter syndrome will make you feel is, I'm not as good as XYZ. I'm not as smart as whomever else is in the room. Here's the other one. I'm not ready for this level of conversation or this level of wealth. And the truth is, you wouldn't be there if God, universe, source did not already think you were as good or you're going to become as good or better. It wouldn't happen. I'm going to tell you a quick story. When I first started on this journey, one of the things that changed the trajectory of my life was the book, The Science of Getting Rich. I was so impressed by what it did for me in 30 days. I decided I want to share this with other women. Just as I was starting out, I was like, oh my gosh, it's kind of like feeling like you broke the code to wealth and you want to share it with everyone. And so I'm going down like the science of getting rich, and I'm going to teach it. And this is the way I'm going to teach it. And in that same time and space, I get an email from Bob Proctor say he's doing a Science of Getting Rich weekend in LA. I was like, oh my gosh, Bob Proctor is doing a Science of Getting Rich thing. I gotta go. I gotta be there. So I show up. Remember, at this point, I probably have 5 clients. Okay. I show up to this weekend in LA, and I'll never forget, I was so impressed by the fact that they had these computerized, these like in the moment generated lanyards. They had a big check-in process. You got a big bag with all this fancy stuff. Like just checking in had me in imposter syndrome. I hadn't even gotten in the room. Then I noticed there were thousands of people that were attending this event. And you know what I did? I got my little check-in thing. I went to my room and I said, why bother, Tasha? Bob Proctor is teaching the science of getting rich. You pack your bags and go home. This is a waste of time, right? And I remember sitting in that room and being just, thank God, recognizing in that moment, well, if anything, worst case scenario, just go learn, see how he's doing it, And I pretty much was like, there's no point in you doing it, but just go see what you can learn, even just for yourself. So I did. I stayed that weekend, and I realized that Bob Proctor was doing an incredible job, and everybody in the room loved his way. And the way I wanted to teach it was completely different. In fact, I started asking the people at my table questions, and they were all like, oh, we love the science of getting rich. We've read it a bazillion times. And I asked a simple question: what is the certain way? Nobody at the table could answer. And in that moment, I realized there's a space for me. I was placed in this room so that I could see everybody else can do it their way. I can do it my way. And there's going to be people who are like, oh, this makes sense to me. I kind of like this. I like your Jamaican accent, Tasha, like God knows what, right? But I was placed in that room because Not that I'm better than Bob Proctor, not I'm smarter than him, but because I'm just as good. And that's what I learned that weekend. So if you can step into these moments and reframe it, another one of my favorite stories that it's Bob Proctor related to was when Les Brown said a defining moment for him, the great Les Brown, was when he saw Bob Proctor on stage and he realized in that moment, oh my gosh, I'm over here playing small. I'm hiding. I'm not following my dreams. I'm not speaking. I'm not sharing stories. It's not because I'm not as good as this guy. It's just because he's doing it and I'm not. And I love the fact that, like Les Brown and I share a Bob Proctor imposter syndrome moment, but it catapulted his entire trajectory of his life because in that moment he realized I'm just as good. So tip is for this one, when you feel like you're not as smart, you're not as good, you're not as genius, you're not as whatever your brain wants you to think, and you call that imposter syndrome, I want you to use it to know that how can I say this? This is your signal. It's time for you to expand your competence. I left that Bob Proctor weekend and I realized I need a coach to teach me how to speak. I realized I need a marketing coach. I realized I need sales coach. I need more mindset work. And so I took it as not that I'm not as good enough, but I'm going to go get the skills to make myself feel more competent. That is just your signal, not that you're not good enough, but this is an opportunity. Go get the competency that you need. Number 3, imposter syndrome makes you feel anxious. You're in the room and you're like, oh my gosh, I've broken out in a cold sweat. These people are looking at me weird. They know. I don't belong here. Okay, so here's the truth about that. You're supposed to feel like that. You have never been at this level before. When you don't feel anxious, it's because you're just at home making eggs and toast like you do every day, and it's the norm for you. But when you get into an environment that is exposing you to your next level, absolutely you're supposed to feel anxious. The trick is, don't use it to shrink, use it to expand. I can tell you so many stories about this, but I'm just going to tell you a quick one. When I moved into my home that I live now, my husband and I got married and we bought our together home. And I remember probably a year afterwards, I was meeting with one of my friends. She's the wealthiest woman I know. And she's like, what's going on? And we talk a lot of mindset. And so again, when I'm in the space with people who are a bazillion times wealthier than me, I ask mindset questions. And so I said, I'm experiencing this thing that I've not had in a long time. And I'm starting to feel anxiety about my mortgage. I've never had a mortgage this big. And she looked at me and she laughed and she said, Tasha, if you want to get to your next level of wealth, you better normalize the feeling of having 10 mortgages this size. And I was like, well, darn it. Of course I feel anxious. I've never had a mortgage this size. Of course I feel anxious. I've never been here before. But instead of shrinking, this is my opportunity to get my nervous system acclimatized to this size mortgage and start to get it ready for 10 mortgages like this or more. And so after I got this message, what happened? A year later, my neighbors, I come to find out the house behind me is rented, and the new neighbors come in and they're having a conversation with my husband and they're like, oh yeah, we're renting. P.S. Where I'm living and my mortgage is causing me anxiety, the people that are renting the houses in here, this is their downsizing while they remodel their real big mansions on the Palm Beach Island, right? And so this is, when you're remodeling, you kind of move into a little shabby apartment. No, they're moving in next to me where my mortgage is causing me anxiety. They're moving in and renting way more than my mortgage while they rebuild. So it's just like this whole wow. But here was the thing that happened. The tenant said to my husband, oh yeah, the lady that owns this house, she owns 20 to 30 of them in here. 20 to 30. Usually you think of people owning like rental properties, you're thinking they're like 200,000, 300, 400,000. She owns 20 to 30 multi-million-dollar homes that she rents. Do you understand? Like, my nervous system was like, girl, you have some work to do because you're over here fretting about your one mortgage. This chick's got 10 to 30 of these and she's renting them. And it was just such evidence for me. Tasha, the work is, you don't let this make you anxious. Normalize feeling. This is normal. It's not a big deal. And I'm actually ready for 10, 20, 30 mortgages because that means I am now in passive income territory. I am now in creating legacy wealth. I am now accessing my next level of wealth. So that's the mindset shift. This weekend, my amazing husband says it's Valentine's Day. He's like, it's a long story, but short version is, he had gotten tickets to go do this extreme motor driving thing where you drive Lamborghinis and Porsches and Ferraris, and it's a traveling thing. So they were only in Miami for this week and this weekend, Valentine's Day weekend. So he says, let's make a deal. I want to go do it. If you'll come with me, I'll go do that. And then we'll just get a hotel and I'll take you to a really nice dinner. I heard really nice dinner, dress for really nice dinner. The hotel thing was just, yeah, we're going to have a place to sleep. So we finished the motor car thing and we pull up to the hotel and it's the Ritz Carlton. And immediately I go, you're not dressed for this. They're going to judge you. They're going to this. They're going to that. They're la 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 la. Right? I'm in sneakers and motor car racing attire. Right? And so I just saw myself going through the process. And then I realized, I was like, Tasha, think back to the last 2 to 5 years of your life and your travels. The Ritz-Carlton has become, or the Ritz-Carlton level hotel has actually become more the norm for me than the Courtyard Marriott. And I realized this is it right here exactly. There used to be a time where I stretched myself, and I tell the story all the time. I would put myself in the Ritz-Carlton level hotel for literally to just sit and drink a cup of coffee. That's where I started. Then I would go to the spa just for one service. Then I would really stretch myself and get all the Florida discounts, all the everything, and stay the night. And all of that was meant to allow my nervous system to start to say, this is the norm for you. This is not a big deal. And you know what happened? Over time, my reticular activating system started to focus on that level of travel, that level of accommodation. And now it truly is my norm. And it's not like, oh my gosh, I set this out as this big goal. I want to make enough money so that I can stay in these places. No, I literally use the opportunity every time I stay in one of these places to allow myself to go, I belong here. This is the norm. This is my standard. So every time you feel that imposter syndrome thing going on, I want you to reframe it and start to think, wait a second, this is God, universe, source giving me an opportunity to access my next level wealth. And instead of using this feeling to shrink, I'm going to use it to rise. I'm going to use it to allow my nervous system to normalize to this level and beyond. I'm going to use it as evidence that I was placed here. This is the greatest clue the universe could give me that, hey, baby girl, your next level of wealth is coming up. Get ready. Use this. Okay. So hopefully that helped you this morning. Reframe imposter syndrome. Again, I see myself in the stories that I hear, and I'm just, my heart goes out because I serve brilliant women and I see them feeling this sense of imposter syndrome and using it to hide, to shrink, to play small. And I want to reframe it for you. Use it to rise. Use it to rise. You belong. You were placed there. It's evidence from the universe. It's a chance for your body to normalize this sensation of next level success, next level wealth. And with that, I'm going to give you all, if you are like Tasha, thank you for the reframe. I want to give you 31 days of something even more powerful. Back in November, when I launched my book, Dear Wealthy Me, I said, we're going to do a 31-day study. It's time. We are ready. So every one of you watching, I want you to type the word, hang on one second, let me put it on here. Type the word book. Type the word book in the comments. And you should be sent a message in your DM to register for the 31-day book study. Type the word book, check your DMs. You should be able to register. We are starting March 1st. Go ahead and get yourself registered for this. This is 31 days of, I want you to connect to the version of you that has normalized being in these rooms. I want you to get this chance to say, oh, wait a second, this is not a big deal. I belong here. I've been meant to be here. This is actually future me showing me what's coming up. We're going to have 31 days of daily prompts, different reflection questions to help you recalibrate your nervous system to your next level wealth. We're going to study you and have you become aware that there's actually a version of you, the wealthy you, who's already ascended beyond all of this. And the more time that you can spend connected to her, the faster you get out of this where you are right now and into where you truly belong. All right, so type the word book, get yourself registered, share with friends. We start March 1st. I'm so excited. I cannot wait for you to have this experience. You deserve to be connected to this version of you. Well, I love you all. Go have an amazing Monday and see you all next week. Bye, everyone.